close. You want to put it? It's in my mouth. Put the volume up. Oh, how's this? Better? No. Twist the knob. Oh, I want you to stand back here because they're going to post the colors. Hello. More. Can you hear me back there? He said, yes, you can hear me? Okay. I can't. You can't hear, but you can't hear normally. You can't hear. Good evening. Good evening. Okay. You should. I'm going to have a couple of people come up here. Thank you for joining us. This is our 23rd year doing this. When we started 23 years ago, there were hundreds of organizations like ours all over the country. And at that time, as far as the POW, the missing in action, there was absolutely nothing being done. The federal government did zero. They had committees, Senate committees, congressional hearings, but nothing was done. Now we're in the thousands of little groups like us all over the country who've been doing this for years and years and years. 23. There were 58,209 American people killed in action. 1,578 are still missing. We have brought back 966 of them, mostly to the efforts of what we've been able to do all over the country and to bring awareness to that. And that, in large part, is why you're here. I think if we were all alone on the common, no one would notice. But because you're here, it's a noticeable event. It goes in the newspaper. It goes on cable TV. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being part of what we do. We're supposed to have a flyover about 10 minutes ago. Maybe they got lost. They don't know where Attleboro is. I don't know. But for opening statements, I'd like to bring John Bouchard up. After that, we're going to have the National Anthem, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. John?
Good evening, everyone. To correct you, Tom, it's supposed to be 6:55 is when the flyover is going to be. 6:55. So they're flying around now, having coffee up in the air or something, but they'll be here. Hey, thanks for coming, everyone. This is great. A great crowd tonight. And, first off, I want to thank the Attleboro Elks Riders, the East Providence Elks Riders, and the Blackstone Valley Riders. Thanks for coming down. We appreciate it. You know, tonight is so important in view of what has happened in Afghanistan and other conflicts in our country. And our country has been involved with quite a few. I ask, why has our political leaders again forgot not only the civilians, but those who trusted and supported us for 20 years in a country they call Afghanistan?
John, I forgot to bring up.
I am so deeply saddened and wonder if our leaders will ever understand the meaning of trust, faithfulness, truth, honor. There are many questions that go unanswered today, as with years past. What will it take? I believe each of us here tonight must stay focused with the current events, and by doing the research needed to react. How? By speaking out in unison for what is right, and not falling back on the comforts which were afforded us by the brave men and women who gave of themselves. Yes, some who gave their lives to help secure the freedoms that we have now and for future generations. Again, tonight we come as patriots all to honor and to remember. Remember their sacrifices and that of their families who must endure the pain daily. As a combat Marine, our slogan is Semper Fidelis, Semper Fi. You probably have heard Marines in stores or bumping into one another, they say that. Semper Fi. It means always faithful. Myself and many, many patriots believe, and we say unabashedly, freedom is never free, and that we will never leave them behind. No, never. So tonight and forever, let us say together, promises made, promises kept to our homeland and to our children and our grandchildren and to future generations. Thank you. Officer, post to guard.
You want to walk over here a little bit because they'll be coming by. Walk over here near me. Step back just a little bit. Yeah, that's good.
And hut. Order.
Why don't you just come up here now? I'm going to put the girls on first. I mean, the kids on first. One of you hold the mic and put it near both of your faces so you can hear. And I tell you which now. Will you please recite the Pledge of Allegiance with our two young friends here?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Can I have your names?
Ethan. Lillian.
You can join. Thank you very much. Now it's my pleasure to introduce someone who has been with us for a long time as well, and she will sing the National Anthem. Please welcome Megan Devenell.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Are you going to come back and sing? No, wait. Are you going to come back and sing America the Beautiful? What are you going to...
Whatever you'd like, just call me up.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to ask our chaplain, Don Vandal, to please come up.
Master Chief, thank you. I'm not sure whether anybody can hear me now. And it's not a Verizon commercial. Let us pray. Almighty God, the author of peace, where boundless love reaches beyond our limit vision, and who holds all the children and concern, we pray for those men and women listed as missing in action. Give especially to their families and love over ones the assurance that none are even missing in the sight, but held forever in the safety of thy love. So we would pray that the day will come when peace will always prevail, so that no more loved ones need ever again be listed as missing in action. By the love that strengthens our lives within, and by the grace that gives us courage, with that strength we raise this prayer. I'd like to add another portion of the prayer. Let us have a special moment of silence for the 13 fellow comrades who lost their lives trying to save our citizens in Afghanistan. We pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chaplain.
Yep.
Captain Keith Jackson. He's always able to help us out. He was asked to lead this 9/11 section because he is most familiar with the sorrow and destruction that was the tragedy of November the 11th, 2001. He went there in that hallowed ground to help his brother firefighters, and brought back friendships that will be part of his life forever. Please welcome Captain Keith Jackson.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everybody. And earlier today, I thought about the irony that I believe 20 years ago at this very moment, I wasn't down at the pile. I was, in fact, up in Midtown Manhattan, an invited guest along with members of my team to the first night of the David Letterman show going back on the air. And that night, David Letterman's guest speaker was Dan Rather. Many of you are familiar with the name, and Dan Rather came on the show, and unlike most times when the show is full of humor and comedy and jabs and good nature, David Letterman was pretty somber about what had happened to New York City, what had happened in Shanksville, what happened in Washington, D.C., and what happened that affected so many lives, more than the 2,970. To all of the lives that were affected that day and continue to be affected today, whether through the loss of a friend, a family member, a co-worker, for people that were actually at the site in the hours and the days and the months following 9/11, the site of the World Trade Center as well as the Pentagon. You know, efforts continued, and many responders today are feeling the effects. One person that's not here today that normally is, he did notify me the other day that he couldn't be here because he had travel plans, but Bruce Naslin was a Mansfield firefighter who resides in Attleboro, and he was part of the Task Force 1, Massachusetts Task Force 1, who responded on September 11th to New York City, and they worked there tirelessly for a fair amount of time. Bruce subsequently became ill. I think he's doing pretty well now, but he couldn't be here today, but he certainly sends his regards. And also with us today, if anybody read the Sun Chronicle last Saturday, which happened to be September 11th, there was a very, very well-written piece in the Sun Chronicle about one of my fellow firefighter comrades and also a combat veteran, Vietnam era, Joe Parent. If you didn't read it, you should read it. And if you don't know Joe, Joe, could you stand up for 1 minute? I know everybody else is. Joe's kind of a short guy, but Joe's with us today. So Joe's dealing with his own issues as a result of 9/11. I would ask that you keep him and his family in your thoughts and your prayers. Also with us tonight are very dear friends of mine who I did not know on 9/11, but have since become very close to Bill and Ellen Goodchild and Pat and Margaret Nassani, and we're very lucky and fortunate to have them here with us tonight. Four of perhaps the strongest people that I've ever met So I believe Pat was going to say a few words. So if the good childs and the sainties would please come up. Yeah, please take your seats. I'm sorry. We'll have to send somebody around with bottled water to rehydrate everybody. Hi, Pat.
Keith.
How are you?
This obviously is a memorable year. It's the end of the Afghanistan war in 2021, and it's the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Now, speaking for myself, Bill and Ellen and Margaret, we obviously thought of Sean and Lynn, our children. But I'm going to pick up on the sentiments that Keith spoke of. I'm going to pick up on the sentiments that John spoke of. And I'm not going to say a lot. I just want to read you something very short and just for you to think about. Because every POW, every MIA has a mother, has a father, some have sisters, and some have brothers. But it takes a war, it takes an intervention, it takes an invasion to create MIAs and POWs. So I want to read this to you. Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975. The Laotian War, 1953 to 1975. The Lebanon Crisis, 1958. The Dominican Civil War, which we were in, 1965 to 1966. The Cambodian Civil War, 1965 to 1966. The Lebanon Intervention, 1982 to 1984. The Invasion of Grenada, 1983. Libya, 1986. Persian Gulf, 1987-1988. Invasion of Panama, 1989 to 1990. Gulf War, 1987 to 1991. Iraq, 1991 to 2003, and we go back again, 2004 to 2011. Somali Intervention, 1992 to 1995. Bosnia, 1992 to 1995. Intervention of Haiti, 1994 to 1995. Kosovo conflict, 1998 to 1999. Afghanistan, 2001 to 2021. And we're still in Somalia since 2007. Something to think about. Thank you.
So we're about to wrap up the 9/11 segment, but I will share with you quickly, and the stuff's in my truck, but every year around this time, I think we all kind of reflect back and go through old photographs and things of that nature. And I did find a newspaper article that was in the Woonsocket Call back in November of 2001, and it had to do with coming off the pile one night. We had to go through decon stations, and then there were relief stations where we could get a cup of coffee or Gatorade or anything like that while we're waiting for the retired FDNY guys to run us back to our housing. And I came across a letter, one of many, and it was written by a 8-year-old girl, I believe, from Woonsocket. And I stuck it in my pocket. So I wrote to that girl, and so she'd be 28 now. I don't know where she is, but I know where she was then. I'm sorry. But I actually made a couple of, a dozen or so copies. So if anybody has 8-year-old children, or if there are children here that would like a copy, or you have grandchildren, I don't have many, but I've got a few in my truck, and see me after, and you're more than welcome to have a copy of it. And in closing, and I wrote this down because, and I'm not going to sing it, but Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band in May of 1986 wrote a song titled Like a Rock. It became a very popular song and used by Chevrolet in their truck sales for years. But it's also widely used by people in the fire profession and the police profession, and it usually goes along with videos showing, firefighters and cops in action and whatnot. But I found it kind of ironic. Verses 6 and 7 toward the end of the song, and again, I'm not going to sing it, I will read it. 20 years now, where'd they go? 20 years, I don't know. I sit and wonder sometimes where they've gone. And sometimes late at night, when I'm bathed in the firelight, the moon comes calling a ghostly white, and I recall. So, God bless all of you for being here. Thank you. And I can't say how happy I am to see the Nassanis and the Goodchilds. Unfortunately, our friendship was forged under not very good conditions, and again, 4 of the strongest people I've ever met. So, thank you, everybody.
Are they leaving? I think the theme that everyone here has brought out is what we've had inscribed. You are not forgotten, whether it's those people we knew or those Americans we wished we did on 9/11, or whether it's those Americans killed in action or still missing. We will be here every year, and we will not forget. Please welcome the Director of Veteran Services, Ben Quayle. He will take the next part of the program.
Citizens of Attleboro, as well as having the honor of serving as your veterans agent, I'm also a veteran in the War on Terror. Starting on 9/11/2001, we, as a nation, began a journey together that would span 2 decades and would require a tremendous amount of sacrifice. Operation Enduring Freedom began on October 7th, 2001, as a joint combat operation with the United Kingdom, focused on defeating terrorist organizations in Afghanistan and eliminating support to global terror. The defeat of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and the conclusion of this operation on December 31st, 2014 would not mean the end to the threats against our nation. Operation Iraqi Freedom would commence on March 20th, 2003 and would last for the next 7 years, toppling the Saddam Hussein regime, ending Iraq's support of global terrorism, and bringing an end to their development of weapons of mass destruction. Operation New Dawn, Operation Odyssey's Dawn, and Operation Inherent Resolve during the period of September 1st, 2010 until present day, encompassing the support of more than 60 countries, defeating terrorists in Iraq, Syria, Libya, the Horn of Africa, and the Trans-Sahara. Most recently, Operation Freedom Sentinel, which officially began on January 1st, 2015, came to an end only weeks ago. In total, these 6 military operations would require the lives of over 7,000 American service members. Operations in Afghanistan alone would total 2,448 military lives, 3,846 U.S. contractor lives, 21,000 U.S. wounded, 1,140 coalition troops killed from 50 different nations, as well as 69,000 Afghan personnel killed. These young Americans answered the call from all walks of life. As all remaining bans on women serving in combat roles were lifted in 2013, this would lead to more female casualties. 175 female service members have been killed since 9/11 as a result of direct enemy contact, including the most recent loss, one of Lawrence, Massachusetts' daughters, Marine Sergeant Johanny Rosario Pichardo, just laid to rest last week. Casualties affect us all and affect service members in many ways. Not all injuries are physical and immediate. A military member can also suffer mental and emotional injuries that last the remainder of their lives. Since 9/11, over 114,000 veterans have tragically taken their own lives, and many more will suffer post-traumatic stress disorder for the rest of their days. Hundreds and thousands of friends, family members, and particularly children will live a life with a hole that can never be filled. We will forever owe them a debt that can never be repaid. Now, citizens of Attleboro, in order to honor the democracy these sacrifices were made to protect, I would now like to introduce our elected leadership to make some remarks in remembrance of our military service members. Our next speaker used to work as a telecommunications technician. He served many roles for the people of this state. He was a chief of staff for the Massachusetts State Senate from 2005 to 2006. He's a member of the Foxborough Board of Selectmen from 2007 to 2010, in which he chaired from 2009 to 2010. And he's been a state senator for Bristol and Norfolk districts since 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, State Senator Paul R. Feeney.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, in this job, I never know what each day is going to bring, and I knew I had this on the schedule tonight and I wouldn't miss it. But this morning, I thought I was going to have a routine office hours in one of the other communities I represent. All the stuff that they want to talk about. Taxes, infrastructure, healthcare. And then there was a woman who sought me out and she waited patiently. And I could tell she was emotional. It turned out she was a Gold Star mother who lost her son not too long ago from this area. And she sat with me and told me all about her son, how proud she was of him, how sad she was to lose him. But then she started to talk about her own experience after losing him in war and this turmoil and the troubles that she's facing. And as she started to talk to me, she started to tear up and I started to tear up. And certainly wasn't what I expected this morning, but what a somber reminder that even though wars end, conflicts stop, that the effects of those wars go on for generations. And to see the pain that this Gold Star mother was feeling this morning, I kind of took stock of that coming over here tonight. And I just want to say, if anybody is a person of faith here, if you can just keep her in your prayers as she deals with these troubles going forward. And I want to thank you all for being here, for being present, for taking part, for standing together to remember, to reflect, to show respect, gratitude, and reverence as we gather here on a late summer evening in honor of our nation's prisoners of war, those missing in action, and the souls lost to terrorism and hatred on September 11th. We do so with a heavy heart in light of the sacrifices made by 13 Americans in recent weeks in what has become the United States' longest war. Much of what we do in ceremonies like this is steeped in symbols. Memorials, plaques, empty chairs, table settings, candles, the list goes on. Symbols that so fittingly illustrate our patriotism and remembrance. Symbols that visually represent our emotions. But the symbols we see, or any words that I can try and muster tonight, will never do justice to the pain experienced by our brothers and sisters who mourn loved ones missing in action, or the lasting physical and emotional effects of captured heroes, our prisoners of war. Those emotions and those feelings, that mourning and sorrow, cannot be described in words, as they do not reside on the tip of our tongues, but rather in the depths of our hearts. So with that understanding that we lack the perfect words to convey such gratitude and respect, such sorrow and such pain of lost and missing loved ones, we do what the community of Attleboro always does. We come together here at this beautiful spot in our city, where memorials symbolize sacrifice and where families gather together in freedom and in community. We come together on hallowed ground to be with each other as a living memorial, to send a message to those held captive as prisoners of war and the loved ones missing in action that we will not forget you. We will remember you, we honor you, we thank you. May God bless our POWs and those missing in action, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Feeney. Our next speaker is a retired high school teacher, math teacher. He's founder and director of the Rome Boulevard Road Race annual fundraiser for kids. He's a partner in philanthropy award winner. He's a Senate district coordinator for the Massachusetts Teachers Association. And he's been a member of the Massachusetts House of Representatives since 2018. Would you please welcome to the microphone Representative James K. Hawkins of 2nd Bristol.
Thank you, Ben. The microphone's at the right height for me. I think that this is probably one of my proudest things that I get to do after being elected, is to speak at this event. And I think if I'm looking around, this may be the biggest crowd yet, which speaks of volumes for the respect that we have for the people who've given so much. And I look at the artifact from 9/11, which I believe Keith Jackson has something to do with, and I look around all the veterans. This is clearly, being involved in the community, the thing that's meant the most to me is getting to know the different veterans in the community and their character, their personality, their loyalty, their passion for taking care of the rest of us. And for 9/11, for POWs, for MIA, the people that are lost, prisoners of war, I can't imagine the sorrow, the angst that goes along with that, and a great respect, and I'm so glad to see so many people here tonight. Thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to turn to the legislative branch of our great city. This next speaker has a tremendous amount of military history. He has sacrificed 22 years of faithful, honorable military service. He has deployments to both Iraq and Afghanistan and now serves on said body. So please, would you give a warm welcome to Council Member Todd Kobus.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And on behalf of the Attleboro Municipal Council, thank you for coming out. I'd like to share a short story. Last night I met up with a few close friends that I had served with over in Kabul. The four of us hadn't been in the same room together for maybe 10 years. And like veterans do at VFWs all across the nation, we spoke well into the night and remembered stories and folks we served with. Some still with us and some we lost. We mostly laughed, remembering their smiling faces and the good times we shared. Mostly. And 2 weeks ago, my roommate from when I was in Iraq was in town. And a few of us from that deployment met up for dinner. And it was the same storytelling, laughing, and remembering. And then at times it would be cut abruptly short with a comment like, "Mikey was such a good kid." While watching the news over the last couple months in the hasty retreat from Afghanistan, there have been many late night phone calls, conversations about the folks that helped us while we were overseas and where they are now. And with the 20th anniversary of 9/11, as a nation, we paid extra attention to the words "never forget." For many, it is easy to forget. For others, we remember every day. But many of our kids were born after 9/11, much like I was born after the horrors of Vietnam, and most here were born after the attacks on Pearl Harbor. But as a nation and as a community, we teach our kids of these events. We share the stories. We fly the POW-MIA flag. We raise our voices with regard to POWs and hold the government accountable. We don't forget. We can't forget. And as a result, while I was overseas, we had countless measures put in place that didn't exist back in Vietnam to help ensure we could be found. And I was encouraged to see rescue missions of captured soldiers and to know that, God forbid, if something happened, I would not be forgotten. And on that unfortunate day, when we had a Dust One situation, which stands for duty status, whereabouts unknown, nobody slept. Nobody. For well over 48 hours until the individual was found. We've gotten better. We've grown partially because of events and traditions like this. This event here in Attleboro and in communities across the country. And we do better because of veterans fighting for their brethren and because of parents teaching their children. Better because as a community and as a nation, we can't forget. So thank you for being here tonight and remembering as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kobus. Our next speaker is a son of Attleboro, born and raised right here on Union Street, a graduate of Attleboro High School, as well as more college degrees than I can remember. He has served in many capacities. He's traveled the world. He's done all kinds of things, but he had a calling to come home. And by doing so, he found himself representing the state and this area as a state representative in 2012. He also serves as Director of Research for the Massachusetts Department of Correction. Now he represents the executive branch of our great city. Ladies and gentlemen, His Honor the Mayor, Paul Heroux.
Thank you, Ben. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here with all of you in the wake of the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and to recognize those who were missing in action or a prisoner of war one time or another. On September 10th, 2001, the United States was a lone superpower in the world. We won the Cold War. We steamrolled over an aggressive Iraq a decade earlier. We did our part to stop hostilities in the Balkans in the 1990s. Our way of life was the envy of the world. We were strong, prosperous, healthy, and righteous. September 11th, 2001 changed all of us when nearly 3,000 people were killed that day. Police and fire responded and gave their lives in the Twin Towers and the Pentagon to save good people. Civilians on Flight 93 fought back and lost their lives trying to stop evil people. 9/11 raised our awareness of conditions in remote parts of the world. It made us and pay more attention to our place in the world. After September 11th, we were a unified nation. We put aside our differences and came together. Our president had a nearly 80% approval. American flags line the streets all over our country. Applications to the CIA, the FBI drastically increased. Recruitment to the armed forces soared. We are together today to remember that fateful day. We put aside our differences to pay our respect to all of those who were lost, to come together because we never forget. We come together to remember the tragedy of 9/11, but also to remember the prisoners of war and those who went missing in action. Our brave soldiers, airmen and women, sailors and Marines who were subjected to some of the worst conditions as a POW should be an inspiration to all of us that their sacrifice helps us live today in a society that allows us to safely be here today. Those who went missing in action and never got to return home are the heartache of the friends and family they left behind. We remember them, who would not give of themselves to help someone who is missing in action come home. I know every person here would do whatever they could to keep someone from becoming a prisoner of war. We care about those we have lost, and that's why all of you are here today. I thank you all for being here today. We're a community. Your presence today is evidence that you care about something bigger than yourself. It's evidence that you remember and honor those who are no longer with us. You are here because the memory of the lost souls matter now and will always matter. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome to the microphone our keynote speaker. And she's going to be introduced by Colonel Julie Hall. Julie's a member of the American Legion and the VFW and has been a big asset to all of the veterans in our community. She's also in charge of the Boys and Girls program that we have, which is very good. Yeah?
We just recess for they're going to come in right now.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we present the keynote speaker, we're honored tonight to have the Massachusetts State Police Air Wing Unit do a ceremonial flyover in recognition of this event and to honor, again, our veterans, the POWs, MIAs, and all the lives lost and affected by 9/11. So momentarily you'll hear them coming. And if you could look toward the skies, they're going to come make one pass and turn around and do another one and be out of here. So thank you for your indulgence.
Very few of our guests have a flyover to intro them. Judy Hall, I think he's coming back.
That's right. Yeah. Thanks for the flyover. That's great. Very, very good. I have a couple of things I have to do before I start. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors, now that I have the opportunity, that helped us put this together. And in particular, I just want you to look at these beautiful flowers. They came from Flowers by the Station. They do this for us every year. Even they have a new owner now, and they also said that they would contribute some to the flowers. So I just want to point that out. We have a lot of people that really support us from the community, and I just want to bring that out. So tonight I have the distinct pleasure. We have our honor tonight, our guest speaker this evening, on the 74th birthday of the United States Air Force. I couldn't leave that out. Today is the Air Force's birthday. Thank you. Happy birthday, Air Force. So Kelly Bennett is our speaker tonight. Kelly is a veteran. She served for over 20 years of service. And when she was on active status, Kelly served as a judge advocate to the Rhode Island National Guard. When not called to deploy, that's what she did. Kelly serves full-time as a government contracts attorney for the Defense Contract Management Agency, Eastern Regional Command. We love our words in the military, at Hanscom Air Force Base. Kelly has served overseas in Kuwait, Iraq, and Jordan, and she is mobilized in support of domestic operations here in the United States, including post-September 11 security missions and the National Guard's COVID-19 response mission. Kelly received a Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science from Stonehill College and a Juris Doctorate from Roger Williams University School of Law, a Master's of Law in Taxation from Boston University School of Law, and a second Master's of Law in Contract and Fiscal Law at the United States Army's Judge Advocate Legal Career and School. It's a very, very impressive resume. Kelly is also a mom of two. She's a longtime resident of the city of Attleboro. She currently serves on the City of Attleboro's Municipal Building Commission and School Building Committee. And she is also my friend. Kelly, please. Major Kelly Bennett.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to address you briefly tonight. I just wanted to start by saying it's really hard to be the one that has to follow the flyover, so bear with me. Tonight we honor the memories of our missing in action prisoners of war and the very many who perished 20 years ago on the attacks on 9/11. In preparing a few remarks for you this evening, I realized that it's significant that we've come together for these two different but critically important causes. For over 50 years, the POW-MIA tradition of remembrance has taught us that keeping faith with and honoring the courage, resilience, and service of those who have not yet made it home gives communities a sense of closure where that closure may otherwise be denied. In remembering a significant anniversary, 20 years since 9/11, we extend that tradition of honoring our POWs and missing in action to those so suddenly lost, leaving their loved ones and communities with unanswered questions and a lingering sense of grief for which closure might similarly be denied. Events like this give our community a forum to remember and to heal. I read an article recently that so poignantly compared grief to a piece of sea glass. It starts out sharp and painful, and with time, its jagged edges smooth and soften. But thinking about this, I realized it's not time alone that softens those jagged edges of grief. It's the hard work of our community, from our veterans organizations, remembrance committees, the efforts of loved ones, families, and friends left behind, and the gathering of strangers. Year after year, that softens the edges of grief and gives our community a way forward to heal the wounds of our losses. As we take this time tonight, this opportunity to remember, I ask each of you one thing: to continue to honor in whatever small way you can the service, sacrifice, and memory of those who cannot be here with us tonight. Take this with you. Continue to gather, and please never forget. Thank you again, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Kelly. We really appreciate your words. Now, if I will have the veterans that I've identified come up, and we're gonna light the candles. John, I've got a bunch of guys coming up, yeah, and we'll pass out the candles. Should I pass out the candles first? Yeah. Why don't you light the little candles first?
Okay, they're passing out candles to everyone here, and so it'll be a little while, and then we're going to light them all up, and we're going to dedicate the 39 candles that we have here on the table. And those 39 candles are a remembrance of these fellas right here on this board. There's 39 still missing in action from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That's just from Massachusetts. There's many more, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But this is a solemn time, and we're glad that you're here to be a part of it. Tom? Okay. We'll start off with the names of the missing veterans from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Bruce R. Baxter. Eugene B. Berezik. Kenneth A. Barubi. Warren W. Bowles. Russell P. Bott. Deverton C. Cochran. Joseph P. Dunn. John S. Earl. Ooh. William D. Frowley. Roger C. Goggin. Richard C. Graves. Joseph G. Greenleaf. Richard K. Hopper. Robert D. Hauer. John R. Henn, Jr. David H. Holmes. Daniel M. Kelly. Everett O. Kerr. Paul C. King, Jr. Henry E. McCann. James A. Magnuson, Jr. Arthur V. McLaughlin, Jr. Charlton P. Miller, Jr. Richard G. Morin. William F. Mullen. John F. Overlock. John R. Painter, Jr. Edward F. Rogers. James J. Sensone. William M. Smith. Martin J. Sullivan. Robert J. Todd. Orion J. Walker. Monet Wheats. And Robert H. Gribb. I'd be remiss if I did not recognize the Attleboro men that were killed in action in Vietnam. Corporal Joseph E. Nimrosky, Captain Richard C. Glidden, HM3 Robert E. Burns, Lance Corporal Gary F. Flynn, First Lieutenant Francis M. Driscoll, Spec 4 Joseph E. Falado, and Lance Corporal Lawrence O. Woodson, and Spec 5 Robert D. Sutton. May God rest their souls. Remember, as the sun sets upon grain, green, and sea, we light our candles and reflect on the solemnity of this day. We gaze at the flickering flame, as strong as it shines. In a moment it may be blown out. And it reminds us of our POW-MIAs and the victims of the attack on America, 11 September 01. The strength, the courage that burns brightly and shows us the way, yet in a moment gone, and we remember the light of each and every man, woman, and child that burns so brightly and was taken from us so quickly. As the bagpipes moan and carillons peal, amazing grace in the distance, the winds gently kiss the faces that are illuminated, and what do we see? Children, former prisoners of war, family members, elders, veterans, people who simply care. Each and every one a witness, each and every one standing in silent vigil, holding a flickering candle that fights the darkness, and we wait, and we remember, and we will not forget. May God bless our prisoners of war missing in action and the victims of the attack on America. May God grant peace, comfort, and strength to their families, and may God grant perseverance to those who wait.
I'll do it later.
I'll hold this. All right. Okay. Wow, look at the lights out there. All right, the closing statement is this. Myself and the POW-MIA 9/11 Remembrance Committee, the Greater Attleboro Committee, would like to thank us, all of you here tonight for coming and participating in this year's event. Our goals are to bring the fullest accounting for the missing in action and repatriation of all recoverable remains, bring them home now, and to remember that future generations must be assured that in some way, somehow, we will bring you home again. I think it appropriate to read some of the governmental statistics to re-enlighten us of how large a tragedy this really is. In World War II, there were 73,547 missing. Korea, 7,883. Vietnam, 1,584 missing. The Cold War, 126 missing. Iraq, 6 missing, which all totals 83,146 missing from our past conflicts. Unimaginable. Unimaginable. You know, I remember our past President John Kennedy when he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Well, now we ask. They did what the country asked. But now, what can our country do for them? We say bring them home now to their families and loved ones so that they may have closing and to rest in peace at home and not in a foreign land. Here in Massachusetts, since 1973, we've had only 23 MIAs recovered from Vietnam. They have been found, they've been returned home with long-awaited anticipation by their families, but still, 39 are still missing. Our government has dedicated itself by doing research, live location investigations, and DNA testing and analysis to bring this tragedy to a close for the families, not later, but now. And also, let's not forget, we the people demand it. I look forward till we meet again the third Saturday of September, God willing, in 2022. And may God bless all of you here tonight. And God bless America. Peace out.
To close out our agenda, we're going to have taps played by the American Legion and VFW. Then there'll be a walkover by our bagpiper. And then we'll retire the colors. So you won't hear from me for the rest of the evening. Thank you. That was the most applause I got all night. Thank you very much for being here. I said it before. It makes what we do possible and makes us so grateful for your attendance. Thank you. Tie the colors. You blow out your candles. Don't take them with you in the car.